Before we get started, I just want to say also that next week we'll have the prose reading, so make sure to come back for that. All right, let's get started. Jerry, you're gonna start by introducing Kite. Everybody's just gonna introduce the next person as they go along. All right, thank you.
It's a great honor to be here to introduce one of the best poets in this room. Kite is from Los Angeles, California, and he's a poet, of course. He says his favorite meal is breakfast, and his favorite breakfast meal is avocado on butter and toasted to color sourdough. I've seen a delicious sandwich with him many times here in DCO, just not knowing that is his breakfast. Not only because of the time, but because I remember he once told me about a different kind of his favorite breakfast in the most European style I could imagine. And he's lived in 7 countries across North America and Europe, of course, including France, Scotland, and Sweden. He knows at what temperature Fahrenheit and Celsius meet, and he's been through that. He holds a BA in philosophy from Pomona College and an MA in English and American literature from Boston University. And he has an admirable candor and sincerity about poetry and poets he likes or not. And I think that is a great virtue and we should all learn from him. So yes, he says he's a bit chatty and puckish. And yes, he could listen better, he says so. And he's working on it, also, he says. So, everyone, Kite Elsin.
Hi. I'm going to be reading 2 poems today. First is The Day Trip, Hard to Forget Allison's. Hard to forget Allison's, an unseasonable week. I was living in Brookline. We were living in Brookline. I missed the Museum of Jurassic Technology at 9341 with the Doves. I wanted to smoke their various pipes. Kirk Douglas, theater, always looking over our place in Los Angeles. It was hardly our place, though we made plenty of noise. The end-of-life home next door sounded fun. All that lady wanted was the Beatles playing at 6 a.m. every morning, and she got it, untrammeled and all, after 4-letter words naturally. It made the fig toast even better. I think I'd like to not be killed outright, but in a good climate, or that I took more pleasure in obedience and submission, so I could be a slightly less conventional person, better than everyone else. Which, as I was writing The Day Trip, it got me thinking about my friend John V., and how I understood a few of his compulsions that he seemed to be having regularly. Compulsions I've had, which seems like much of a muchness, but also makes me feel inferior and mutual. Not in a liking way, though, but that could be vanitas. And as I'm writing The Day Trip, and thinking of John V., I figured, these compulsions, and how I have them, listen, we're okay. Let's not overdo it. We overdid it. I'm in a dumpy room with a little twin bed and gray comforter, even grayer sheets. The walls are colored the most forgettable beige of small and dingy midness. I don't sleep under the comforter. I sleep under a woolish blanket, charcoal gray and balding in most places because it's cheaply made. Who cares? I like it. Red, orange, yellow stripes and both sides of its 70% wool, 30% polyester. Esther without the H being the Persian name Esther. She was my first crush traveling through Spain at age 15, never once thinking of the day trip, on a bus practicing space, into 100% cotton canvas shorts, hidden between the folds of throwaway, written in Basque pamphlets. Boys, girls, hamon, art, wine, genitals, saffron, brine, rar, Esther. Fresh minted love, that's the day trip. Hope you don't mind me saying, Miss Malone. But when the shorebirds and I got to talking, we agreed. The family we'd met at breakfast, many words too quiet. Well, it would have been nicer if the chintz patterns on the curtains their son used to hang himself would have made his suicide pretty. But they didn't, and couldn't. The vulnerable fattiness of his delicate neck, like a stiff stuffed animal, was an incredible loneliness, If only we could have known all the unsaved letters, and the timing was bad. It was summer, I remember, and I was writing probably my best poems. If I had to recommend another, I'd say A True Story of Talking to the Moon About the Sun. It's breezy, as were the menthol darts Brian and I pulled from, talking about the day trip with gurgly laughter. I try not to look at my work. I never feel like it's me who wrote these things, never the person who was doing this and that, or who was writing about it and could put it that way in the day trip. The same person who grows back hair but wears women's jeans and junior skates. I'm too calculated, wishing I'd have counted another way. Too many meager traps for my attention. All I wanted was to write, only the last way to do anything is to seek it, and I'd hardly remembered my marbles. Imagine being 68 years old, entering a building in Orange, Connecticut, and leaving 15 as a compressed blend of sugars, acids, oils, flavors. Just tilt your head back. Out of your hinge pin, there's Pez, just in time for spring. I'd like to walk around inside still lifes and sip the tartness from ageless but slowly rotting fruit. Oh, if only I were a painter. I wouldn't paint that. I wouldn't paint extreme postures either. I'd paint the beginning of the day trip as a train ride to Hudson, New York, sitting on easy terms with strangers whose names make nowhere places, in a flood of shouldery warmth in the parlor car, laughing into each other's crow's feet and bunny lines, ideas barely in the beaks of sparrows. Thank goodness all the Appenzell Daphnes are dry blue. Benefits follow. I'd make Solvay bronze doorbells according to all the rules, then make shapes shake much too close in curling vegetals. The kind that dress like music to cover their oily bones and feelings. It's far from ordinary to hear things left out intentionally in spaces where people are not afraid of the rain, where I'm not afraid of the rain, even if I might want to avoid it, knowing that there's this chance it won't stop, that it might never stop. And it's not stopping would be this Spritzkrieg, no number of Davek minis in Plum, sold out, couldn't stop all the people walking or cycling or riding in their cars with a distracted désolé from being massacred. And I'm afraid I'll never have the chance to show you the day trip or kiss your no longer warm forehead and ask if you'd like me to remove the socks from your elevated feet, or if you'd like lobster poutine from Allison's restaurant, even though you're allergic to crustaceans. And that's why I'm writing here and alone on a day trip to the back of some apple fall courtyard. I'd like to think good will come from each day trip, that you'd have been just fine eating poutine, maybe even swelled up like a plish of rain. I wonder, would you have fallen in poles, or soft and silent like mice? This next one comes from a series that I'm working on. It's called The Bends. And no one's heard it. This is called Bend number 12, AstroTurf Green. There are two prisoners, number 4367 and number 2401. One has escaped and the other is trapped. You decide which one. But this isn't a love story and don't believe it, so keep your shirt on. We've just begun to start. Both prisoners are to blame, and both are beautiful and have funny faces and pretty teeth with strong white enamels. You can see their kind and decent smiles and their shaped calves. They wear jeans well and have nice shoes with AstroTurf green soles. One prisoner talks too much and so does the other. He could possibly love her and she might love him. It is fall and too hot to be fall and the leaves are changing. This is not a love story. There are two prisoners, number 4367 and 2401. One has escaped and the other is trapped. We will call him Henry. Henry, who has escaped, is wily. We must think of her as too smart for her own good and quick, too quick. Her mind moves faster than her feet. It's like she's splintering light. She's the best Henry, obviously. Other Henry is caged, lying there filthy with hope, and picked last for kickball, even though he runs very fast with calves and hamstrings that fill out jeans honeycombed behind the knees, and seat hugging in all the right ways. Very few people care how good you look in jeans. Henry often thinks how important this should be. There are two Henrys who are or aren't in love, and this isn't a love story, but it is a real story that happens under a real sky, with a day and night that cooks for many miles, with real stars that look like the little freckles on the island punch, and Tutti Frutti and birth cake remix jelly beans. Depending on which Henry is most in love, and which one is more beautiful, since they are both beautiful, one will intentionally and by surprise punch the other in the face. Which Henry punches which? My name is Henry, and I'm the punched in the face Henry, and we are not the same. Henry, you, or me, or other Henry. This is not a love story. Your name is Henry, and she is Henry, and somewhere else, a family of Henrys have decided to murder their sibling, who is also named Henry, by appealing to his tastes in grapery, taking him to the cellar, where there are many bottles, so many bottles, decades old, dusty and unopened. The cellar is damp, and his love of grapes is total, and they are far underground, lower than any cellar I know, and you too. Henry drinks a bottle of Chateau d'Yquem, 1945, and he's proper loaded and passes out, waking chained up to a wall, surrounded by his siblings who are churring their pumpkin seed smiles. Around Henry, they get to work building a wall, a huge wall of porcelain and salt, layered high and wide with Henry inside. The isometry is beautiful. You are inside the head of Henry. This is not unusual. You sat here before. There are dozens of Henrys in folding chairs made of powder-coated tubular steel, cold to the touch with a squashy vinyl, set in biscuit purple. Every Henry looks like you, all but two. They have your Ivy League haircut from college. The odd two are dressed like Llewellyn Davis, playing Henry, playing Llewellyn Davis. It's confusing, but everyone's calm about it. They're here to choose which Henry will be the next Llewellyn Davis. You raise your hand with a straight back, sitting up straighter. The roll-down screen is you showing your childhood Henry face on loop, singing in the winter concert. You're a tenor. Which one is you? Shh. Davis is about to begin. Two prisoners are standing next to one another in the same holding. 4 holding feet of 2 prisoners, cold and not sweating, still oily, on the even colder cement not touching. Neither are their chests, chins, fingertips, or empty cathedral eyes. You are sitting in the middle pew. You've just had your first Holy Communion, and your milk glass white and new and beautiful. You look pretty, and your hair is curled and brown. What nice teeth you have. You won't be a grandma. You will be a widow. You are an only child with a metallic nickname. You wish this wouldn't happen so often, and that you could talk to someone about this, but your mother's a chastener, and your father works too much and overeats, so he's not even here. Behind you to the right is a nice family. Sit with them. If there was more to know, we'd have kissed for longer. Imagine that there is more to know. Imagine that this is a love story, and the 2 prisoners' hearts are swollen together in 5-petal flowers with dark purple centers, all along branches that are not lost and headed in different directions. They want more, and what everyone wants. In the beginning, original Henry created words and the way they would taste, and they'll have smells and sounds from strings. Then when second Henry was made, he could tell original Henry he loved her. Please tell Henry you love her. Isn't she pretty? Then she can make it end the way you'll understand, and put camels through eyes and ropes through needles, and take photographs of daguerreotypes. Where's the flash? Bing, bang, boom. Everyone say cheese. And no flowers escape and nothing ends. No one understands why. It's still fall. Who do you love, Henry? The real stars are real, and the night sky cooks for miles, and is dark and long. Who do you love? They are waiting for you on the patio of Tony's Darts Away in Burbank. It's comfortable and warm there. There they remember red radio flyer wagons and being pushed down steep driveways by the older kids, zizzed when the streets were empty, but it isn't safe, so they hit the curb and fly ET style into rose bushes going too fast down the even now still too steep driveway. Rose thorns picked from knees and thighs and forearms, bleeding roses onto Corian vanity, no longer almond. That's where they're waiting for you, Henry, where the sidewalk is wide and paved over many times. There, it's comfortable and warm. You're in a car with Henry, European, the kind with heated seats. She's a pretty sugar plum, but your face is Vicks Vapor Rub Blue. You're breathing just fine, the seatbelt's in your ribs. It starts with a body and is still in a body, and we're nearing the ending. You're in the car with Henry. He's a handsome crunchberry, and your forehead is filmed. Henry and I want to trust others, but that's a tough one. He doesn't tell you she, and she doesn't tell you he. Silence. In silence. Where are your manners? You're in a car with Henry, and the seats are heated and the warm is bright. Your hair is straight, my jeans are black, and we're wearing our favorite shoes with AstroTurf green soles. A match is lit to light a cigarette, Marlboro short. I wasn't ready, and now it's permanent. And you weren't ready, and now it's permanent. The fall leaves. A poet, originally from Memphis, Tennessee, Riane Bayne claimed Chicago, Illinois. All the same, after 4 years stint downtown for her BA in creative writing from Columbia College, Chicago. With previous experience as an assistant poetry editor for Allium and Wholesome Zine, Riane is currently in the process of writing a series of narrative poems with an accompanying series of handwritten letters in deceptively legible cursive. Very true. Past Gothic and Romantic influences in their work, Riane similarly soaks in classical and ambient scores like a sponge.
I've aged like 6 years since moving here. Okay. So I'm going to start off with a bit of a vignette poem written fall of 2023, titled Down Gorville Road. This glorious rolling, tumbling span of clouds, like storm gray in some ugly stretch of pastoral plains and nasty rough southern grumbles. Gothic woman, sitting on low-hanging, plumply wanton cloud. See things true and find yourself fit to fall like some overripened fruit. This poem was a precursor, I believe, to my goth partner that I've had for nine months now, but despite this southern grumble, Gorville Road's in Illinois. Okay. And for my next poem, I'll be reading Dominant Ascendant. I see premonitions of shimmering seas around dorm room vestiges, and I feel finality in the spring, on my skin, down to my feet. Oh, how they've sprung with the body electric, while sirens swim about, flicking their tails like winking nipples, flash from car windows on the year's first warm day, when I spit out blackened smoke towards the popcorn ceiling, as if I am the true smoke-sucking beast within these walls, without all of these trendy fashionings, littering angels about like flies in the teeth of local 18-wheelers. In my room, the gray skies look like soggy saucer magnolias, outside of my third-grade portable classroom where ashen clouds shined like illuminated throw blankets bunched and bundled on the love seat in midday light. I can smell water on brick, rain on brick, with vines curling over the tough surfaces, squeaking along with their plasticky fingertips. They remain curious like an outreaching child. I saw this once and assumed I could talk to the plants and bugs since they walked and preened in the sun like me, cursing abominable winds and soaking in all things true. This next piece was written by the end of August for workshop, and I sort of took all of the best snippets I wrote over the summer, so hopefully you guys agree. This one is titled, To Those That May See It, I Am a Sledgehammer. Turning to the sky, indignant and strange, let me have my fill of sausages and toasties before I drag those lulling faces onto the street for the junkman to do away with. Simply, to dash the coals into the night, to forget the names of those relatives countlessly removed instead of asking the sun directly for the answers to my fallacies. Can you feel this flushing wave of air between our stomachs, like a soft padding on your fabric-softened t-shirt? It is the understudy to some strong wind bringing the poison I'm weaned on and the wine I drink, This is a deadly picture, fashioned by my lunacy, dressed in slacks, riding into the dawn like an endless barrage of insults. See it as you may, this weapon I am. A brute force worth endless dissections that cannot stop me from bending the grandfather tree underneath this heel that is calloused and thick like stone. Hear me past this blunt knocking and over the sound of your shrieking before I swat you like the fly you are. Thank you. I agree, those are very splendid together. And for my next poem, this one's a bit off, and I feel as though I'm speeding through these. They seem to be quite short. This next one was written during my undergrad for a class where we had to choose one thing to write about for the semester. So I chose raves because I was 21 recently at the time, and that was the most interesting thing I was doing at the time. So for this piece titled, "Why Do People in the Club Jump Like That?" Pickpockets, begrudgingly thick-bellied, locket rockettes, such unlawful knockers beget. Without bells or whistles past the 18-volt Matt Daddy amp, pests squander around pumped-up kigs with VHS bottle-popping misfits, how they swing and dance with the former's more famous ghouls. They sniff snow and pop Candyland illicits. I wear the drapes that your neighbor threw out. They make the cat piss stain look and smell like Galliano. I think they're funny, they like how I dance. Now, clear the rows, they're watching me spin and shake, see me swing and sway, sly like the slippery ghost in air in this crowded club. Neon lights pulse as the tendrils from that designated driver's Lost Mary sneak amongst the LEDs and near pyrotechnics. I like to see the people jump for all things transcendental. I like to see them jump for all things. I like what I see. I like what I see. I like what I see. This is all true. Thank you. And for your own pleasure, this chapbook and zine was titled "Nights on the Scene. Do You Have an Aspirin?" And for this last poem, because I didn't want to go over 5 poems, I'm going to end with another sort of short vignette. And this is a very recent piece that has a major edit of changing the title. So I've shortened it simply to "Off the Porch." Billowing smoke running through resinous ashes without any room for error or justly written apologies that make even the fattest toads, croak cross. The annoyance is latent on their tacky tongues, that reach incessantly like vines, that steal themselves away as the thistles might similarly grope the sky and give no warning to the day. Very, very short one for me, guys. And off to page 1 for our next reader. Give me a second. Miharu Yano, bio read by moi, is a poet and literary translator from Tokyo, Japan. They were the former editor-in-chief of Exchanges, a journal of literary translation, and they hold an MFA in literary translation from the University of Iowa. They have been developing a series of scroll poems, one of which they will read today. The recent favorite things to snack on while writing are yellow watermelon, fresh, and Macintosh apples. I know they are unpopular, but I really like their texture. Cue applause.
I'm just gonna need a couple minutes, or a couple seconds to set up, but thank you, Ryan, for the intro. And I would also like to say that I think Honeycrisp apples are overrated, and Macintosh apples have their own kind of novelty. Can you help me log into this? So I've been writing these scroll poems ever since I got here, and I took a Tail Genji class, a class on the Tail Genji in Iowa, my last semester there. I've just been thinking about like how the scroll opens up the limits of the page. And so a lot of my poems are sort of scrolling across the page, and I've expanded And also, I've been exploring sound and how to use performance as a way to use more techie things, which is why I have a MIDI pad today, and to make my readings sort of more accurate or reflective of the way that I write. And so we will see if this works. This is my first time trying this. Guys, there we go. Great. All right. Let's begin. I'm going to be reading one poem called My Proprioceptive Body, and it's inspired by the profile of Judith Butler that was in the New Yorker most recently, where they described their body or their car as their proprioceptive body. And I've also been obsessed with Katie Lamb, who is this amazing rock climber. And she ascended or successfully climbed this very hard boulder called box therapy, which was graded. So these walls are like all graded and like there are levels to them. So the thing that she climbed, when she climbed it, was B16, which is one of the hardest walls to climb. And then immediately after was downgraded. And she was the first woman to ever climb B16. But a bunch of things happened and was downgraded to B15, and so it's like, what are these arbitrary levels of rocks? And and then also while I was reading this, I was reading Nabokov's Otto or Ardor, if we have Nabokov fans in the crowd. So it's just kind of an amalgamation of different things that was going on in my head, and now I will stop talking. Let me remind you, exposition is proper lineage anchored by apt feeling skills. Proper reception is the effect of two planets on each other, becoming apt, becoming intrinsic, becoming distinctive. Development is sordine, possibly moot, sourdough.
Within the organism.
Symptom.
Mood walking on bumpy roads.
Diagnosis.
Automatic.
Symptom.
Riding a bike, Nausicaa style.
Diagnosis.
Learn.
Symptom.
Climbing box therapy, V16 or V15.
Diagnosis.
Leaned.
Symptom.
Judith Butler's car body.
Diagnosis.
Auto-gleaned. Nabokov says,
to be means to know what has been. Not to be implies the only new kind of sham time, the future. I dismiss it. Life, love, libraries have no future.
Symptom.
Nabokov says, let us recapitulate.
Diagnosis.
Recapitulation, boiling until fired through within the organism, within the organism, within the organism, within the organimalism, within the organimalism, within the orgasm, switch hinge the organ into its sham time.
Time.
Is a false recapitulation.
Time.
Is the arrow pointing back.
Time.
Could be the dynamic jump over the dividing line back to
within the organism.
Within the organism. Make more space. Make more space. Within space. Make more space. Now that we are situated, make more space.
Let me ask you, Does the car being your carapace prosthetic bother you? If so, let's try an exercise. Close your eyes and think of a coating forming around you. Will it protect you? Does it augment you? Is it a cramped car? Could we start with switch hinging the organ? I think that should be your starting move. I'll do the maths, you chalk and shake your hands out. Keep going, keep going. I'm right behind you. I'll follow your lead. I'm following. I get it. Of course I know what you mean.
Now that we are situated,
Let me convince you. What more can I give? Thank you. And I will now be introducing Jacob. Woo! Jacob ZF is a writer and visual artist from Boston, Massachusetts. They studied painting in the Hudson River Valley and worked as a teacher in the city of brotherly love before coming to Notre Dame. Jacob loves state habanero-infused cheddar cheese, same, Cape Cod potato chips, and honey while scribbling new verses on the computer. Oh, all together. Oh, cool, like a fancy nacho kind of situation. Okay, cool. Please welcome Jacob to the podium.
Gina Davis is becoming modern again through a series of core strengthening exercises expertly designed by the glue-sniffing, fast-fashion students of yesterday's punk aristocracy. This is all well and good, unless, of course, you are one of the few unfortunate souls that was thoroughly duped by her previous advertising campaign for the most advanced cryopreservation and reanimation techniques currently available to the public. This is a body of work about the work of the body, reads a wall label in the reluctantly looted contemporary wing of what was once the city's largest art museum. We take pictures of ourselves engaging in sex acts with the few remaining Brancuzis and then move on. Gina Davis is institutionally absent after collapsing and blurring herself and the ideological underpinnings of herself into a state of permanent undoing. This is standard practice, if not a little outmoded, and we as a group prefer the more base expressions of a new sincerity. We as a group work on choreographies of new sincerity, which help us to reorient our bodies toward the desires of those citizens previously deprived of movement. My body, in particular, is often manipulated by the percussive, spiritual energies of our group's members, and it is through this manipulation that my oracular abilities come into greater focus. Meanwhile, Gina Davis is mummified in front of a live studio audience. Her authentic organs are removed by an integrated robotic system and placed into authentic canopic jars. This is her last public appearance. The museum's gift shop has been converted into a lounge for the sanctioned consumption of distilled cannabinoids and spontaneous performances of Baroque oratorios. It is full of fashionable, well-educated citizens who might scoff at something like the cheap symbolism of an infinity sign Ouroboros deployed in the surrealist interlude of a mediocre period piece. We, as a group, however, stopped attending films entirely after learning they were once silent. That was a poem. That was a poem called Gina Davis is Becoming Modern Again. This next poem is about the poet Louis Zukofsky and his wife Celia. Zukofsky's Arizona. 1. A tome or a mote. The tone-deaf poet is so inspired by his wife's music. The tone-deaf poet asks his wife to set his poems to music. He is at worst a classicist, but no one blanks the generalist. She had to see it to hear it, and no one blanks Zukofsky's Arizona. arching like this, or the two TH sounds scatting over all waiting chatter. Only a name, a poplar, a plane tree, on the other side. Dewy water jug, a drum house, leads to, spills through to, the list of chambers, their scientific names, an alphabet, a grammar of stutters. He could carry a tune, only in name, following his crooked little finger to 5,000 overlapping, dislocated points. Playing Paleolithic man's reconstructed flute, the two hollowed-out halves fitted perfectly back together. Warm smell of tone-deaf, snow-covered knot eyes, used for seeing natural areas transformed. She I ought to love so closely composite, like night sky and drinking water of all these stars do. She I ought to love so closely composite, if rakish spagaletto dons a leafing out of ink piles. The natural swims to new trusts. Now a composite of leaves sounds is waiting to be healed, waiting to photograph an aura, to photograph just her eyes for the branches' poems. And later, maybe a space between compressions, space's paler color staining the oilcloth. 2. Each rock art symbol is an important message, with the exception of recent senseless graffiti. You want to say something, so say something true. And careful not to hide behind a head that sits square on. Square your shoulders, good technique. Be careful not to hide the emotion. Write a workplace novel, a well-paced novel. I act to love no one, blank blanks the generalist. Dumbed again by something like complexity, wordless and seemingly turned wrong side out, a slicking thought, again an aerial view, and obtaining details of the vista, adequate for a quality picture. This next poem is called To Fumble Words from the Distance Between. To fumble words from the distance between, to make them bigger from the floor of the nave, as giants braid their arms to form bridges in the sky, pinned there, knowing the word memory, filling the word, emptying it, with no clues in scores, no pattern like dovecote. Many notes I take are about distance or clarity, as the pigment mixers libate on screen, building tents of part and whole, because I am telepathic peaceful, completely healed, as a mirrored hand passes through fleets of compact galleys, low-resolution words slipping, sinking into Pisanello's blank scroll. My tongue or mouth models book patterns, describing composition by proxy, night activity, construction. The documents once again fall silent. Clepsydra tones, water music, and body of the earth is of the nature of a fish. Body of the earth is a fish composed of golden dots, making bottomless texts, making bottomless tools, but always poorly transcoded. Among other things, programming sensations with a repertory of jumping, falling through a paper screen hoop. It will not conjugate or gather the beveled text, whittling away these long blocks. And how beautifully the resolution, a pattern language, speaks in terms of a bead sequence. From the cellar window, gloved hands travel at night like movers of a loving calligraphy, like tesserae blurred to form Etruscan words. The range, engrafted, describes a functional device using soot and spit, smoothing, bathing the voice that speaks in terms of time of day, mood, confections. As if knowing, then gleaming off the tender woman's plate, or a coin rendered too closely to the eye, depth was an invention of minute identical clefts, opening up our behavior. At the back of the sanctuary, another scroll is being mended on a folding table. This poem is called Parkway Central 2. Shout out Parkway Central Library in Philadelphia. As soon as the words were spoken, they covered his face to open the mouths of pagans. A short phrase woven into the middle of a short phrase, woven into a surrounding orthodoxy of quiet objects, nameless things. the detail and clarity of expression, to use an informal style in describing certain personal experiences, proper nouns, place names. Long lists of missing information are a sound schematic rendering. Like a clutch of eggs in a nest, like the wall of the nest, has a coherent, articulated surface, but to pre-visualize the finished basket may not be helpful to the pattern maker. As some broken forms are buried in luxury tomes, self-masked sources written on the wind which passes through a ring suspended from the mouth. Sometimes a break in the accumulated clutter, this aspect of cellar work, piercing, singing, a repetition of the sublime moment, despite many encounters buried in notes, fragments destined for limbo into elaboration. The plain-spoken variations on a theme do provide an American outlook of concentric circles and the ability to render these earnest objects by hand. Each one must be labeled and cataloged. A happy woman, a crying woman who hurt her eye, a crying woman who lost her eye, etc., etc. Benjamin makes the computer do funny voices in funny voices. With cloistered mannerisms, we will soon finger the hyperobject in a final act of reckless abandon. But in the meantime, I'm just like that bird, spreading moisturizing lotion on its wings so it might be given some protection from the sedating choice of words embalmed as they dwell with binos somewhere in the perceivable depth. The opening scene shows the frustration or possible shyness of a camera waiting in the next room over. She shows her face to us through scrolling fabrics, Little Miss Bossy Pants, Little Miss Forget-Me-Not, piled higher than the eye can see in the study where she writes her murder novels.